Good morning. Let's see who's out here on Facebook land. Let's see who's out there. Okay, peace. I can see somebody's. Okay, there we go. Peace, Charlene. How you doing? Peace, sis. I'm just waiting for a couple more folks to get on here and get it cracking. Okay. I see there's 5 people here, but I can't see who it is. Charlene popped up and nobody else is popping up now. Well, let's see what it do. Just bear with me a couple more minutes and we will get it cracking. Zenda, peace. How you doing? Ain't seen you in a good grip. Hope all is well with you and your sister as well. Peace. All right. Okay. Well, let me get this cracking. Okay. So here's the deal. I'm gonna try to do this, in a nutshell, to do it quick because I gotta put more thought to it. I be up early thinking, researching, studying, blah 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 blah. So, I'm already been up 3 hours already, 4:30. So here's the problem. We have a lot of situations that are going on in Boston now where these things are now coming to fruition. So, for instance, me and my activism, being active since I've been like 17 years old, but then, really serious into my adulthood or what have you. And we were trying to do some things around police, right? And one of the things around police was, of course, creating a civilian review board. So I know me, myself, I've been on that for 30 years, right? 22, like the 90s, yeah. So civilian review board. And, of course, I didn't create that movement. Folks like Charles Yancey was on the same wave, the ACLU and so on and so forth. Now, over the years, the crowd got smaller because when there wasn't an instant response to civilian review board, then it became like the true faithful who like stayed on it, and kept going for all these years. So flash forward to 2020, when then Mayor Walsh creates the task force, which I got on, and the Boston Police Reform Task Force. Okay, boom. So we get together, we meet for all them months, we create all these reforms. Now all this stuff is to be implemented, right? So now with that, some of y'all may have seen, if you paid attention, out of that was created an office called OPAT, the Office of Police Accountability and Transparency. And coupled with OPAT are 2 different boards, Civilian Review Board and the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel. So the real power, lays with that. But in any event, I just say that to say that I was part of the team that created it. Now, we created OPAT, we created the CRB, Civilian Review Board, and we created IOP or EOP, however you want to say it, Internal Affairs Oversight Panel. Now, here's my concern. As I now have begun seeing some of the names associated with it, or associated with even the commissioner's search, and I'm trying to be very careful here because there are some people that are involved in this that I do not respect at all. Others that I do respect. So I want to be clear because this is not, this is not a diss. This is just a statement. So that over the years, as things are getting established to oversee or debate, discuss, develop, policies, now it seems like the people who are brought in just don't have a track record in the subject that they're being brought in to consult on, if that makes sense. So, for instance, anybody that knows me my whole life knows that I don't really give a damn about sports, okay? So I've given this analogy before. But if anybody wanted to talk about the Celtics, like right now, if somebody had $1 million, I couldn't name you 4 people who play on the Celtics right now. All right? Now, back in the old days, see, I could still name Robert Parrish, Tiny Archibald, Cornbread Maxwell, you know what I'm saying? DJ, Bird, Ainge, Kevin McHale. I can even go back, Bob Cousy, you know what I mean? What was that dude? Havlicek, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Bill Russell, of course, right? So I know enough that I can be in a conversation and sound semi-intelligent, especially when I cherry pick only the questions. Somebody says like, who's the best Celtic of all time? Bill Russell. See, because you could say that with authority based on, the ring factor and, the legacy. All right. But you don't have to be a big sports fan to know that. But I could come in on a conversation sounding like I know what I'm talking about just because I happen to be right on that thing. So in any event, my point is, let's say that right now, Michelle Wu was creating a commission on sports and life in Boston as it relates to the local sports team and, sports life in Boston. And they appoint Jamal Crawford to it. Well, first of all, Jamal Crawford is the type of person who I would decline such an invitation because I'm the first one to say, I don't know nothing about that. Or I might know a little something about that, but not enough that would qualify me to sit on a commission to be discussing and, doing it, because we're talking at the end of the day, we're talking about people's lives involved in here. So I don't want to be play pimping with kids' lives by me going into a room, talking about an issue that impacts the quality of their life that I really don't know what I'm talking about. Hopefully I'm going to make all this make more sense. I've given the analogy before. I went to Mario Umana Harbor School of Science and Technology in East Boston, Umana. They had aviation classes. Mr. Wing, ironically, his name was Mr. Wing, and he wasn't Asian either, a black man. Mr. Wing, who taught us aviation. Now, because of that, I know about glide ratio. I know that if a plane loses all power, for every 1 mile it drops, it goes 7 miles forward because of the glide ratio, right? I know about drag, I know about lift and thrust, and so once again, I could have an intelligent conversation about aviation, right? Until an Air Force pilot comes in the room, or until an air traffic controller comes in the room. I'm probably the smartest guy in the room. Sitting at the bar talking about aviation until a pilot comes in. Right now it's like, ooh, all the little women or whatever, you trying to impress, you be like, damn, this dude might say something and blow my whole, you know what I mean? This whole con game I got running, So my point again is, just because I know a little bit about aviation and know enough of the jargon to sound semi-intelligent in a conversation, to be able to hold a conversation, if Michelle Wu had to put together something right now about redoing Logan Airport, Jamal, don't you know something about, I'm going to put you on this. No, Miss Mayor, don't you do that. I don't know enough. Yes, I know planes, they fly, they land. I don't want to be that guy. Last point. I know something about health, right? But if your grandmama's sick, take her to the doctor. Don't bring her to me. You follow what I'm saying? So what has happened here is, unfortunately, we now have people who I know in my brain, if I were, had a magic wand to put these people in a room and give them a quiz on what it is that they're supposed to be knowledgeable on, the subject that they're supposed to be, leading on, I fear we would get dismal results. Dismal and abysmal. Okay? Now here's a couple of things that have been in the news as of late. So once again, all the police reform stuff now. We're talking about the Civilian Review Board stuff. We're talking about the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel. We're talking about the search for a new commissioner. Now, with all the names that you've seen, and I haven't even seen all the names. Today, in fact, I'm on a mission to get all the names because people talk, I've seen people congratulating people and whatnot, but to my my knowledge, there has not been an official statement that has listed all of these people. All right? So all I'm going to say is that if I tell y'all I'm an activist and a community organizer and a revolutionary, y'all can go back in my track record and see that. I can show you video of 17-year-old Jamal talking that good shit. You know what I mean? To then the school commissioner or the police commissioner, whatever. I've been this way. My mother and them will tell you I've been like this since I've been young, getting kicked out of schools for, conflicts with teachers and authority and a bippity-boppity boop. So you can trace Jamal's trajectory back to it. What's the beautiful young lady, the dancer, that I'm so in love with? Can't even call her name. Misty Copeland. Misty Copeland. If you're a phenomenal dancer like that, I can pretty much guarantee that if we go back, we're going to find a picture of her as a little girl in a tutu. You follow what I'm saying? Because there's a trajectory. Particularly when you this nice. Well, y'all know Serena and Venus. Well, and thank God for Pops and whatnot. But, they've been doing tennis since they're kids. So you can find a picture of them, 8, 9, with a racket in their hand. The basketball greats. You're going to see them as little kids in what do you call it? The Pee-wee leagues and all this type of stuff. Dribbling the ball when they was a kid. Lenny Kravitz, you're going to see a picture of him when he's little playing with a guitar or something. You get the point? So all I'm saying is now, these people who have now been interjected into particularly the stuff around police reform, you do your own research and you tell me when and where they've been involved in anything policing before. Because as a guy who this was my main thing, like I've been to a lot of meetings around policing. I've led a lot of meetings around policing. A lot of protests, a lot of press conferences. And let me tell you, I ain't seen none of these people. Okay? Nary one. And in fact, some of these people now who may be, on the civilian review board or whatever, in past have been allergic to talking about things police reform. I mean, good examples. Some of the meetings that I've conducted around police, people literally stayed away from because they were scared. Like I was the bad guy because I was bringing up issues of, stuff like, justice, schmustice. You know what I'm saying? So I remember being the controversial figure. I mean, this is where it all flips too. Because then all of a sudden, after Trayvon Martin and then, these other cases that happened, now everybody's a revolutionary. These folks ain't know nothing. I mean, not for nothing. Folks to this day still think Trayvon got killed by the police. We understand hopefully y'all understand that's not the case. And a lot of this stuff got mixed up, so now we're hearing from people who have no expertise on the subject. They've never studied policing. They've never studied the subject matter of policing. So, like, for instance, in those issues, let's say I was tasked with reforming the NFL. NFL reform. Jamal Crawford. I get to reform the NFL. Well, in order to reform something, wouldn't you need to know something about the structure of how that thing is set up to begin with? And then not only the structure of how it's set up, the relationships between players and coaches and owners and managers and staff and medical personnel and trainers and blah, blah, blah. You would have to know that structure, first of all. But then you would also have to know, where the crap is in the structure, right? So you not only have to know the structure that it operates in, but you got to know where all the chinks in the armor in, so that you can then offer, resolutions to those specific ailments. That's how you get to reform. So you can't reform something that look, I can't reform the corporate world if I don't understand corporate structure and if I don't understand that, women are getting hit on by their bosses. How are you going to change sexism in the corporate world if you don't know that sexism exists? Or you're like, what? No, women are equal. They don't have those type of problems. It's 2022. So if you're that type of person that don't see the problems and don't know the structure, you're not going to be able to reform. I hope this makes sense. I'm trying to make this, down to baby bites. Okay? So once again, what I'm curious of is, well, as I've seen some of the names, not all of them, all I know is that I don't really know these people, meaning that in police reform, because I still have the videos. So when we were doing the biggest stuff in police reform, I know who was there. When people were getting killed, I know who was there because it was a very small group. You know, me and several of my friends, right? Occasionally the ACLU. I mean, and I don't even want to list you the names of people who punked out. Prominent black people who were in leadership position who was like, no, I'm not going there. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole because they were scared. Oh, I'll give you one. Mr. Michael Curry, then president of the Boston NAACP. One of the videos I just put out the other day, where we were at Boston Police Headquarters, protesting at that time the officer who did the whole banana eating jungle monkey thing, Justin Barrett, if I remember his name off the top of my dome, and we were calling for that and a bunch of different reforms. And Mr. Curry was there at the press conference, and you know he and I traditionally don't get along too well. But you there, you the president of NAACP, or I think he was actually about to take the helm as the president of NAACP. And I'm like, you want to come here for the press conference? You know, you're right there. You want to come here for the picture? You want to say something? Nope. Stay right. So it's like, oh, so you just want to be a lookie. Okay, I don't get it. So why are you here then? I don't get it. I'm confused. But in any event, things like this, you know, have gone on. And what I'm saying is that now in this conversation of police reform, I'm seeing a lot of people involved who I know ain't really been involved in the past 30 years that I rightfully recollect. Ain't been involved in the past 30 years. And then two, don't have any kind of knowledge base that I'm aware of that would benefit that. I'll give you a couple of great examples, I believe, on a new search for a commissioner. There's Miss Geraldine Hines, former judge. God bless her. Nobody really has anything bad to say about Geraldine Hines. Excellent legal mind, a person of high moral fiber and character. But once again, I mean, y'all tell me. Does Geraldine Hines have a history dealing with things, dealing with police? No. More so, Takwa, anyone would want an ounce of historical perspective on the subject would appoint Jamal Crawford to at least one of these committees. I would suggest whichever has subpoena powers and or indictment powers. Okay, thank you, brother. But see, I don't want to be on the committees, right? I was on the task force that created them, right? But in the concept of creating those committees, because see, I'm not one of the people that try to double dip. I'm not going to be on the task force and then put myself on the thing, right? So what the hope was and the intent was to create these committees to find knowledgeable people on these subjects that can now serve. I didn't open the door for myself. I tried to open the door for others in the community. Now, the problem is this is where the fix is in. Because based on at least what I've seen, and as I was talking about, you know, with this commissioner search, Her Honor Geraldine Hines, for instance, wonderful person. Nobody could say anything bad about her. But I just don't know, over the years, her name with the subject of policing has not. Now, criminal justice, sure. Juvenile justice, absolutely. Things that are more criminal justice and things that happen in the legal world and the courthouse, yes. Most of these folks, though, in my opinion and in my experience, from what I've seen, and I do not know everything, they have not been involved in the efforts of police reform over the past 20, 30 years that I've been involved because I was there. Okay? So that's a problem. The other people on the thing, you got Abigail Forrester. I know Abigail, got no hate for Abigail or nothing. And once again, this is why when I say stuff like this, I want people to get it clear. Because this is not hate. I'm stating the facts. And it's unfortunate that I have to do it because, you know, these are serious subjects. So I can't just like not say nothing, right? So you got somebody like Abigail Forrester. Good dude, know him, you know, no problems. Problem is, once again, never been involved in police reform. And once again, because I know him, I know for a fact that he ain't never came to none of the meetings we've ever done on police report, right? All the times we've tried to organize black men in this city, black men leadership group, black men's breakfast, all these type of things that we did. Once again, I know who was there. I mean, if y'all think I'm playing, like, this is how deep it gets, y'all. Because oftentimes, I still be having the sign-up sheets. So, literally, I'm trying to see when this is from. This is Griffith. Yeah. So, my point is, this is 6 years old. So, my point is that, literally, I'm telling y'all, if it ain't the video, if it ain't a sign-up list, if it ain't the years of sending out emails, like, I know who's interested in the subject and who's not. I've been trying to create critical mass for this for I don't know how long. And you know why it's never taken off? Because people don't really care. You dig? Even the incidents where people have been shot and killed by the Boston police in Boston, it's hard to get people excited. Nah, people are yelling out from Missouri and Mississippi and LA and anywhere but here. That's a whole nother story about what's wrong with folks in Boston, but that's a whole nother story. But Abigail Forrester, he works at, now runs teen empowerment, which, you know, for many of us in the revolutionary circles, that group itself was problematic. It was part of the nonprofit industrial complex, which is another nonprofit that is set up by white people, particularly in this case, a white man, Stanley Pollock. And don't think none of this is secret. Stanley and I have had these discussions over the years. He knows all this. You know what I mean? He knows all of this because we've had this in-depth discussion. So another white organization created by a white person that's coming into the black and Latino communities that's supposed to solve all the problems of the black and Latino youth. I've had a problem with it. They send kids to work. I've had reports over the years where kids ain't been happy with the money, or they taking some of the money, or ain't giving the kids all their money. There was a problem with a break-in at one of their locations, at which time a community person was blamed for it, like that person broke in and stole their little funky computer. Another time, I've had problems over the years because they've always done this police and youth thing. I don't know what it's called. Is it youth and police partnership? Whatever the heck it is. It's an officer-friendly program. It makes me want to vomit. Where they force these kids to sit in a room. The police come and tell these kids, you know, when you see us coming down the street, you know, pull up your pants and call us sir, Mr. Sir, Officer Sir. You know, this type of thing. It's completely one-sided. It's all about the officers talking to the kids and how difficult their job is and, you know, how these kids can make it better and, you know, all this type of stuff. Now, in reverse, because I've known a lot of the kids over the years who've gone in there. Some of those kids have been, you know, some of my people I was mentoring and whatnot. Now, these kids want to go in there and be like, yeah, okay, well, Officer Friendly, that's nice that you're here on Tuesday talking to us at this group. But last Friday, one of your colleagues busted me all in my foot. Oh, we don't want to talk about that. We don't talk about that. So here you had a group created by a nonprofit that actually has dialogues between the police and the kids, but we don't want to hear what the kids say. And also, too, never wanted to politicize the kids so that they would never allow those kids to actually get involved in any kind of substantive police reform or documentation of their stories that then could have said, well, shoot, I got 20 kids here that say that they're being abused by the police. Can we make that an issue? So it was never none of that. So to me, it was always weak sauce or whack sauce. You pick one. All right. So that was teen empowerment. So in any event, years ago when Stanley Pollock left, thank you, V. Then when Abigail took over, I don't even think we ain't even had a meeting because I wanted to address that very thing about if they're going to continue this youth and police program, and if so, a way to do that with some integrity and some honesty, and not just trying to indoctrinate these kids on, you know, police are good and, you know, your people are the problem. You know what I mean? So in any event, but once again, either doesn't even matter. I just gave that sense of a background. The point is that Abigail Forrester himself has no background in police reform that I'm aware of. I don't know what that man doing his off time or on the weekends, or, you know, maybe he's operating under an anonymous name or something. I don't know. But I know that for my 20, 30 years of working around police reform in the city of Boston, Never seen none of these folks. Never got a call, a compliment, a complaint, a suggestion, a question, attending an event. None of it. Okay? So, then you have, no, hold on, there was another point there. With the Abigail thing. When I asked someone about it, why was he chosen, or like, what is the criteria by which any of these people were chosen? They gave me different answers for different people, but whatever. Okay, so with Abigail, they said that, well, and this is no secret that I'm telling here, but that he's it's part of his testimony in his story, that he's a formerly incarcerated dude. Okay. So being formerly incarcerated makes you an expert on a subject? Because if that's the case, I know a whole bunch of brothers who came home. I guess they should all have consulting firms or something. Okay, so, look, we all know the whole thing about, the what's it called? In Living Color skit, the brother who's locked up and, see, because I wanted to constipate this to you. Oh, pardon me, I mean consummate this to you. We all know that. So, not making fun or whatever. There are brothers who go into prison and completely self-educate themselves. Probably our best example of that is Malcolm X. Went and read the whole damn dictionary, came out and changed the world. You already know, right? People such as myself. I only have a GED. Well, now I can't say that anymore. Now I've graduated with an associate's degree from RCC all these years later. But for years, all I had was a GED. Smartest guy in Boston, boopity-boopity-boop. GED. Last grade I completed was 10th grade, right? Kicked out in my first month of 11th grade. So, self-educated. So I get it. I'm not down in none of that. But I'm saying, if I went to jail, right, for 10 years and I come out, I'm still not going to be an expert in basketball. You know why? Because basketball doesn't interest me. I go to jail for 10 years, I probably will come out with my completed reading list done in my head, because all the books that I want to read and whatnot. So I'd probably be getting more into names that, most folks don't know, like Sheikh Anta Diop, you know what I mean, Ivan Van Sertima, John Henrik Clark, Joseph Ben Yohanan, I would be going back to like the black classics. You know what I'm saying? And if y'all don't know those names, you need to get familiar. But so that's where I'm at. Meaning, whatever's in is whatever's going to come out. Even in computers, they say garbage in, garbage out. So that also goes for good stuff. Good stuff in, good stuff out. Okay? If you inundate your child with music, that child is going to, at least be skilled or proficient when they get older and potentially interested in music. As you know, a lot of our parents gear their kids towards sports. And that's why, you got a whole generation of kids that basketball and football, and that's it. Ain't picked up a book, none of that, So all I'm saying is that when I was told that he was picked because he was formerly incarcerated, I just found that to be a complete bogus reason. And in fact, I know several more people who have been formerly incarcerated who are in fact interested in studying the subject of policing and police reform, including those who went there based on bogus charges. I'll give you a great example. For instance, Sean Ellis. I think he would have made an excellent candidate for any of these. I got to get to the bottom of that, because from what I understand, they didn't want him there. I guess his expertise is, what he went through, going through the case, coming out, becoming a national spokesperson for the Innocence Project, traveling around the country. Yeah, he don't. What does he know? He only did 27 years based off of bad police work and police corruption. He don't know nothing about that. Yeah, what does he know? So, Abigail Forrester, who once again, to my knowledge, does not have a big history of dealing with police issues, or certainly not police reform. Okay. The next lady, and I'm super not being dismissive, I just can't call her name right now. Latina sister. She's from the BU, a lawyer and a professor, and she's from the BU Center for Anti-Racist Research. great. I think we needed an academic. I think we needed a legal person. Well, we already had Geraldine Hines, but I think we needed a legal person. So that's all great. BU Anti-Racist Center. They just made that like a year or two ago. I mean, Dr. Ibram Kendi just got here. And because of the fanfare around his celebrity, his, brilliant man, the fanfare around, his book and everything, where BU brought him here, and, his whole thing is about how to be an anti-racist, and they created a whole center for anti-racist research. So it's great. That's great. It's wonderful. My problem is it's too new. A year or two, and you're not even really in Boston like that. You're not in the streets of Boston. You in BU. So anti-racist research. Well, I would need to know what research has already been done on the racism of the BPD, because since y'all folks just got here, I doubt that y'all are aware of the over 100-year-long history, beginning with the Day Watch and the Night Patrol, right, and going back to the slave catching, to the famous poster of, I believe it's April 11th, 1851, that says, "Beware, colored people of Boston. Keep a top eye out." See, so I'm not really comfortable with anybody, whether you're an academic, a lawyer, a judge, a returning citizen, or whatever, and you like new to this. So God bless these folks, but I don't know how much they know about policing in general and the Boston Police Department and their shenanigans specifically. And not just how much you know, but then the other question is, where you been? So if somebody says, we're against rape, great, rape is bad. I too am against rape. When did you discover that rape was a problem? See, that's the problem. So for me, most things I'm active on, I became active when I was young, when I found out about it. And then my entire life since that, look, some of y'all know I deal with domestic violence issues. How is that? Because I used to be an abuser when I was 17, 18. And cocaine is a hell of a drug, right? And when I developed my consciousness, obviously, black woman is the queen of the universe. Can't likely punch the queen of the universe in the face. That doesn't compute. So as I did self-reflection and introspection and clean these things out of my life, it wasn't just enough to get it out of my own life, but then it was about getting on the bandwagon and joining the mission and the movement of trying to help other people deal with this issue so our women aren't beat up, and so that men who dealing with this know that that's not what's popping and they need to get help. You see? So once I found out about policing, I had to become active in it. Right? So I don't know these people who have a concern. When did you become concerned? When did you become aware? And we all have different points of, that eureka moment or that point of consciousness. So that's okay. If I've been conscious for 30 years and you just got conscious last week, I'm not looking down on you. I'm just saying that you can't lead the Black Movement March. You just found out who Malcolm X is. That's all I'm saying. And now, not for nothing, in this town, I've even seen people like with the red, black, and green flag, and they've been holding it, holding it upside down because they're perpetrating. Makes me mad too. And actually, back in the day, they probably would have got beat down because of that. Because literally, it's almost like, that's they would have certainly got a stern talking to. Let me not go as far as saying beat down, but they would have definitely got told about themselves and corrected. Okay, on to the next one, because that's police. These things are the same thing, so that's why I spent the most time on the police thing, because that's the one I was involved in. But now we're going to go to the, and I don't want to leave off because now it seems like I'm picking on folks. The last person on there, too, is Bishop Dickerson, William Dickerson. Many of y'all know from Greater Love Tabernacle. He and I used to not get along, basically because I prejudged him as another one of them preachers in the suits, getting the people's money and all that type of thing. But as we had conversations and dialogue, I began, and also too, a lot of other people that we knew in common as well. So other people, old school people I know who grew up with him, just like knew him from kids or whatever, was like, nah, he's a good dude and this type of thing. And so because of the conversations we had, we know we don't see eye to eye on everything, but I no longer think he's a slime ball. You know what I mean? He's a good dude, good man. Once again, we don't see eye to eye on every issue. We don't attack issues the same, but I don't think he's a con man manipulating, people out here and, hustling in the fly suits and all that type of thing. That's not the case. But what is the case, and, is that I still don't think that he has the level of experience with the police, but because I talked to him, he alerted me to a couple things that I did not know or did not remember, which is one, that he served as the chaplain for the Boston Police Department for quite some time. So, granted, he knows police, he knows the police, that I know him more so as dealing with the prisons, going to the prisons, prison ministry. I know he was a prison chaplain for quite some time. So that's more how I know him, and dealing with issues around, once again, criminal justice, stuff that's more dealing with the courts and law stuff. I really haven't known him as a police guy, right? And he and I served on the BPD Social Justice Task Force, which was under Evans, which was a joke, by the way. The police just, get in a group of community people in a room to basically tell them, hey, everything's going great. We're doing a great job. And, it was all bullcrap. And they weren't trying to take any tough questions. And somebody like Pastor Dickerson, the clergy in the room, they basically just reduced him to just, opening and closing in prayer, So my point is that it was never regrouped like we were the Social Justice Task Force. Every meeting I used to ask, when are we going to talk about some social justice stuff? Because that's never what we got. If you've ever been to a community meeting with the police where they're like, oh, there's 5 purse snatchings and crime is down here. And blah, blah, blah. It was like that, but like the VIP edition. All right. And I was indignant. All right. But in any event, okay, so on to the other things. The next one. There's a commission now created for black men and boys. Everybody is high-fiving and patting on the back. As a community, we have collective amnesia, and it becomes sick. Because, so first of all, the people who do this act as if it's first time was done. Our good sister, Senator Diane Wilkerson, did this at the state level many years ago. I was in a room with a bunch of people. A statewide commission on black men and boys. Hers was actually backed up by data and research and study. At the time, if you remember, she was conducting those statewide conferences or conventions, whatever you want to call it, 21st Century Black Mass, and was bringing in a who's who, not only from the region, but nationally, to come to Boston to dissect and discuss a lot of the problems that we had, from education, healthcare, criminal justice. I know I'm missing more, but you name it. It ran the gamut. Used to be at the Heinz Center and, stuff like that. Okay? It was a big deal. So out of that, because, not for nothing too, and here's what it upsets me. Because I know a lot of these people who are involved, they don't know a lot of this stuff that I'm about to tell you. I lived through it. Many of y'all on here, black men, y'all lived through it too. I was born in 71. So obviously growing up in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and then blah, blah, blah. Okay. So at the time, black men were an endangered species. Okay. Like the horned owl and stuff. Like literally, we were on the endangered species list. Okay. At the time, and see, once again, I'm going to talk about this because these people who are running the statewide commission, or pardon me, who now created the city Boston Commission on men and boys, I can almost guarantee, once again, if I took 10 or 15 of them into a room and did like, used to do for school, put out a paper and everybody couldn't talk to each other or nothing, and give them a test on issues of the state of black men and boys, I am willing to bet all the money in my pocket that they would fail overwhelmingly. dismally and abysmally, just with what I consider basic information. So basic information. Back then, Haki Madhubuti, a lot of people don't even know that, so let me spell it. Haki, H-A-K-I, Madhubuti, M-A-D-H-U-B-U, or actually, it might be, yeah, I think it is H-U. If it ain't H-U, it's H-A. Bati. Haki, let me put this in the doggone chat if I can. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, I jammed it all up. So Madhubuti, Haki Madhubuti. He is the longtime artist. I mean, author, poet, what have you. He has what is known as Third World Press. Is his company. I'm trying to pull it up here. Yeah, let me see here. Well, y'all just have to look him up. But if somebody could put it in the chat, Haki Madhubuti, M-A-D, Mad, H-U-B-U-T-I. But y'all look him up. In any event, at that time, his seminal work was Black Men, Obsolete, Single, and Dangerous. The African American Family in Transition. This came out in 1990. Okay. Before that and since that, is also Jawanza Kunjufu, who did, countering the conspiracy to destroy black boys. I don't even know how many volumes that thing got, but at the time it was like, volumes 1 to 2 and 1 to 3. And now it might be over 10. But in any event, there were a lot of people who were studying and reporting on and developing theories on what was happening specifically to black men and boys, black males, right? The phenomena of the rates of prison, the homicide rates, the drug use, the fatherless homes, all the, the whole ball of wax, right? So a lot of this has already been dissected, but I'm sure that these people don't have a foundation in it. And I'm almost sure, too, that most of these folks were unaware, nor did they study what had already been done before with Senator Dianne Wilkerson doing the statewide commission on men and boys. Now, here we go in Boston. We have this effort at that time was led by Tito Jackson. Now, once again, many of y'all might know that I, have had issues with Tito over the years. Once again, to make this as plain as I can, these are not personal issues. I like Tito fine. Knew his pops, knew his moms, got respect for moms, but really like knew pops. I ain't got no problem with him. We're just different type of black men. And those differences often clash because to me, he's the type that wouldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight, right? Okay, and so when you're in a leadership position here, as a city councilor, as he was at the time, I can do without all the the black goofy stuff. I'm more about black excellence and being serious and being laser focused. I'm not jumping in the air and doing a split and touching my toes. I'm not dressing up in wigs. All that stuff is behavior unbecoming a black man. And what it does is it's really buffoonery and cooning. And what it does is it diminishes the level of seriousness that the world can take you, which is why he wasn't taken seriously, which is my contention why he was a horrible candidate for mayor and why he why he lost or didn't win rather, because that stuff don't translate. Okay. You don't exude power. You don't fill people with confidence in your abilities because it all just looks goofy and sloppy and, nobody wants to follow that. Nobody wants to follow that, Oh, except your sycophant friends, of course, who say, oh, you're the greatest, wonderful, wonderful. So, whatever. So, Tito Jackson, commission on men and boys. Now, right there, I just think that he's just probably the worst person in the city to do it. I don't want you having nothing to do with men and boys because you don't exude black manhood to me. And I damn sure don't want you talking to no little boys, right? Because, to me, it's everything about what we're trying to move away from. Trying to be a big guy, right? You big. Used to play football, right? So that's your claim to fame. And then now it's like you got to be the big. I keep using the word goofy, but that's really the only thing. A lot of big people, they either go to, the gangster way or be the goofy or the funny guy. You know what I mean? So we already see which route he chose. All right. A lot of this to me, the self-deprecation, it's just a real deep psychological thing. I don't like it. It's not good. If I had a son, these are not, like, I wouldn't say, hey, look at that person right there and model after that person. Although that person has had some great, professional accomplishments and all that, probably certainly makes more money than I do, those type of things. So all that, finish school, great, kudos, all that. But I'm talking about the type of man one becomes. That is not my model. If it is for you, or that's acceptable for you, or whatever, great, no problem. I just have a different thing. My standards are a little bit higher. I need a little bit more oomph, okay? And I don't get that from him. I get, and not for nothing, the example I gave is, had he become mayor, do you think he would have been tough enough to stand against the forces of the powers that be that would have been pulling and pushing him in every direction? You think he would have been able to handle the tough white people from, the corporations and development? Listen, y'all just have no idea. If you're that naive, they would have been running, ripped. Oh my God, it would have been crazy. All right, just trust and believe on that. All right, because once again, people, nice person, backbone. Look, you know what I mean? All right. Okay, so you got the commission on men and boys. And I'm sure, once again, that these folks are not privy to the work that was done before, not privy to the wealth of academic stuff that's out there. I'd be surprised if some of these people know who Haki Madhubuti is. I'd be surprised if some of these people know who Jawanza Kunjufu is. Or if any of that material has now gone to influence them. You know what I mean? I don't see these people trying to bring these type of people here. I don't see them trying to bring people like Jawanza Kunjufu here. Never seen that. Now, he's come here before, but not with that ilk. In the circles that I travel, black national, right? Black nationalism, right? Pan-Africanism. The radicals, the revolutionaries. These are folks from the corporations. They are from the convention sponsored by Bank of America. Even though Bank of America is complicit in the slave trade. But see, they can't even have that conversation, right? They too busy trying to get corporate dollars from Bank of America or McDonald's or Coca-Cola or whatever. Those are those folks. The black tie affair, the brunch, right? Okay? And that stuff ain't going to get us nowhere. How do I know? Because history has already provided us the evidence of that. This is not me guessing. I can tell you it doesn't get us anywhere because you show me a point in history where it ever has. We're not going to schmooze our way to freedom. We're not going to commingle our way to freedom. Elbow rub our way to freedom. Network our way to freedom, right? The freedom is not going to come. Liberation is not going to come in an event or a convention or a conference. Okay? None of that. So once again, to me, what you saying, Nikki? Of course not. These people have to really care and make a direct change. Everyone wants to spare the committee and get a plaque to stepping stone because it's not for us. Exactly. And not for nothing. Look, if we know a meteorite's coming and we got 2 months to get here, okay? All black people, we got to get off this planet and we got to go back to whatever planet we came from, right? Okay? All right. I don't care. I don't want to be the one to say, yo, me. Put me on the rocket ship committee. Because I don't know nothing about rocket ships. Now, what I can do is go help find Neil deGrasse Tyson. Somebody like that who knows something about, you know what I mean? And not for nothing, just because he's an astrophysicist don't mean he knows nothing about rockets. Like to build one. That's a whole different skill set. But y'all get my drift. So that's the thing. I would care less. Be on a committee of black boys and men. But be the guy that if I interview you on it, you so knowledgeable about that subject, you could drop what I did, which was light work. So that's what I'm saying. I don't hear these people talking like that. I don't know. From the people that I've seen in the leadership position, I would just like to know the last 10 books they've read. I don't know if they've read 10 books. I mean, I'm being a little wise guy there, but I'm saying, you know what type of books these people read? They might be reading Tony Robbins. I'm not saying they don't read, but I don't think that they're reading from the same pile that I was schooled from. And not for nothing, because, you know, when you know better, you do better. Like, you know, if they had, I think it would have changed the trajectory in their lives, and they would be producing different output. You know what I mean? So in any event, I'm concerned with the people behind, you know, and I know Ron Bell is involved as well. Got love for Ron Bell and whatnot, and we should have a conversation, because I need to be giving these folks some information that I do not believe that they have, if this is going to be a serious thing, right? Because I am a black man, and I once was a boy, and I like, okay, like, I wonder if they even know seminal stories, like coming of age stories. This is just like, I wonder, do they even know about Man-Child in the Promised Land? See, yeah. I'm trying to see what year that came out. Man-Child in the Promised Land, Claude Brown, 1965 it came out. One of my favorite, you know, books. And, you know, for young men, I think this is critical, as is the autobiography of Malcolm X. And these are the types of things that can help change young men's lives. You know, but I don't even know, once again, it's like, if you have a group of young men and they're being led by some older black men and they're supposed to train them up, how can you train them if you don't know? I had this saying, perfect example. When they did, I always keep wanting to call it men, Boys to Men. What was the doggone thing? When Obama did the whole thing about mentoring, and then the city of Boston did it. Conan was in charge of it. Whatever. But I've seen a lot of these efforts before and whatnot. And so, for instance, like a dude like Conan. Conan is not a very knowledgeable person. You know, he may know what he knows, certain things about, but like, this is not a guy who's gonna, you know, so now here you have a captive audience. What the heck was the name of that program? Damn. For the black boys in Boston, men and boys, it came from Obama. Oh my God. I can't even think of this doggone thing. Man, in any event. All right, but so now, if you have somebody like Conan in charge of it, and you have a captive audience, let's say he had, I don't know, 150, 200 young men under his thing. What can you tell? I can't teach these kids karate if I don't know karate. My brother's keeper. Thank you, Priscilla. I can't teach these kids karate if I don't know karate, right? If we discover that gymnastics helps young boys for successful in future, I can't teach them gymnastics because I don't know gymnastics. Yes, my brother's keeper. Thank you all. So now, at least in Boston, see, because Obama, different story. But now here in Boston, when you have somebody, and once again, when I say names, I'm doing this on purpose because, once again, it's not out of hate. These are like facts. So when you now have somebody like a Conan who's in charge of my brother's keeper, he can only give the kids what he himself is in possession of. And he himself just got right. Okay, and is, you know, on a path, but he ain't nowhere near the destination. And this is, once again, see, this city rewards certain things. So, for instance, right now, Conan is viewed in this city as a leader. Great, I'm great. I have no problem with that. Some folks, I've been accused of like, oh, you're jealous. And then folks don't understand the concept of jealousy. Jealousy would mean you have something that I want. If I'm saying that you don't possess skills, qualities, or possessions that I find desirable, how can I be jealous? That doesn't make sense. You know, if I'm saying that I don't believe people read enough or read the right things, why am I jealous? I want to be unread as well, or not well read. Like that doesn't make sense. So what really gets my goat and what I'm pointing out is the way that this city appoints, rewards based off of, well, actually I haven't figured out what it's based off of. But the point is, if you took all the quote-unquote black leaders in Boston, let me just do the men. If you took all the black male quote-unquote leaders in Boston and sat them down and gave them a leadership test, I just would like to see what these people know. I just want to see what they know. Because I'm telling you, I don't think that they know much. Like, man, I don't think that they know much. And granted, my life is different. I've been blessed to have been in a lot of different circumstances and situations. So I was watching a thing last night on Oscar Micheaux. I don't know if y'all know who Oscar Micheaux is, father of black cinema. And I'm watching the thing on Oscar Micheaux. First of all, I'm thinking, wow, it's crazy how many people don't even know about Oscar Micheaux. Then I'm thinking, wow, how fortunate I am that I know all this stuff. And then 3, how fortunate I am because the only reason that I know this stuff is because I met people who taught me this stuff. And as the film is going on, and it's showing Sam Greenlee, Spook Who Sat by the Door, and it's showing Melvin Van Peebles. You know, y'all might know Mario Van Peebles' father, but you know, Sweetback's Badass Song, another father of black cinema, along with Sam Greenlee, Spook Who Sat by the Door. And I know both of those guys. May they rest in peace. And both of those guys used to sit and give me jewels. So now I know, and see, once again, I know a little something about black film. Know 2 of the OGs of black film. Now let Jamal go to Emerson and tell y'all I'm a professor of film and I need to lecture there. You see what I'm saying? And I actually got, but that's how these people do. They know a couple of little things on the subject. Now they want to lead or run it or whatever. And once again, who are we depriving here? We're depriving our community at large, because if you're an ineffective leader and you're supposed to be leading on an issue, that issue's never going to get addressed properly or never going to get solved. Or the other group of people is like whatever young people or whatever you're supposed to be training or whatnot. You got a captive audience of young people, but you got nothing to give them. Because you don't know nothing. You can't give them movie recommendations beyond what? Lion King and Spider-Man or something. Because you don't know nothing about black film and documentaries and all this type. You know what kills me right now? Everybody running around talking about Black Wall Street. When did y'all find out about Black Wall Street? Because I knew about that when I was like, I don't know, what, 10? Now, once again, I'm different. So I get it. I'm not mad. But what I am mad at is the people who just found out about Black Wall Street last summer, now doing all these events called Black Wall Street, and they're going to act like they're going to lead you to economic stability, and they just found out about Black Wall Street last summer. Okay? So it's really sad. It's really sad. And once again, don't believe me, do your own research. Economic stability. Let me go back to Tito Jackson right quick. Y'all seen Tito opening up a weed thing, a 5-floor weed thing down Faneuil Hall. Brilliant business guy. Just a brilliant business mind. So first of all, Faneuil Hall is failing. White businesses ain't even doing good down there no more. Faneuil Hall's failing. You could just read about that in the paper. It's failing. The New York developers who run them all, I mean, it's like rents leave. So whatever. So he's going to Faneuil Hall. Great idea. Because, of course, we always go to Faneuil Hall. Now, what he's banking on is, of course, all the travelers and the tourists and whatnot. Problem is, it's a one-pop spot, okay? Folks is going to go there once. You're not going to get repeat visitors. And so once the novelty wears off, it's going to be crazy. But here goes the funny thing. Here's a guy that comes and says, I have this great business idea. We're going to get it done. I'm going to business. Then he turns around and starts basically, I'm going to call it GoFundMe, but it's not. It's a crowd fundraising thing. So then says, I have this great business idea, right? But I need you to buy in. So if this business is so great and viable, how come you can't get it yourself? That's like me telling y'all I'm about to buy a house. And all I need is y'all to give me $100 and, you know, 1,000 people give me $100. I got 100,000. Go, you know. Because I wasn't, see, the lie there is that you weren't going to get the house unless other people pitched in. You need other people for your idea because you can't sustain your own idea yourself. You don't have your own money. You can't find salient investors to invest. And so therefore you have to turn to the blind masses in hopes that based off of your personality, your reputation and whatnot, they will give money. And they did, dummies. And you know why they did? Because they don't read. because anybody who would have read the terms and conditions would have certainly saw Tito Jackson says, you give me $100 and I give you back 180 in 5 years based off of the profits. There's a couple basic questions here. Once again, I'm telling y'all this because these are y'all's people who y'all look to for economic advice. So first of all, I got a kid down the street named Pookie that you can give $100 to. He'll give you back 200 next week. Okay? You could flip that with an ounce of weed. I mean, what are we doing here? So $100 and you get back 180 in 5 years. Okay. And it's based off of profits. That's great. So I'm going to get 180 back off of the profits. What if it doesn't profit? What if it doesn't profit? What if it never operates in the black? See, this is what I'm saying. Like, folks don't think about this. Because, you're going to be down Faneuil Hall, and we all know that the rent down there is mad cheap. So, he has to make a profit, meaning he has to sustain all his overhead, 5 floors now, a restaurant, a tasting place, a grow thing. That's a lot of money, okay? Just to run, okay? And based off of my calculations of what he said he did or whatever, but so you're giving 100, you got to give 180 back, so that's 1.8 thing. So I took how much he raised and did the 1.8, and so he raised, I forget what it was, like 500,000, so and then he has to give back 740 or 760, I forget what it was when I did the math. But in any event, y'all think that's gonna happen? Because if so, I need y'all to go to my Craigslist page where I'm selling the Zakim Bridge. I'll give it to you cheap. Okay? So number one, the business is going to fail. Mark my words there. The business is going to fail because business is about supply and demand. There was nobody's saying, you know what we need? A 5-floor marijuana business. You better go talk to some of these other marijuana businesses because they hurting. It ain't the big bust that everybody thought it was. You know why? Because the weed is cheaper and better on the streets. Meh. And you don't have to show your license. Meh. I mean, maybe, like, once again, this is what happens when square people get involved in street gangs. So now you're going to be a drug dealer. Okay. You're going to fail at that like you did before. So in any event, whatever. Bad business model. And how do we know it's bad? Because he had to go to the public for help. See, if I found the new source of energy, I'm going straight to the bank with that. I don't want your $10 in it because then you partners with me. No, I'm keeping this for myself. Okay? If it was such a great idea, he'd be able to manifest it on his own. And once again, you're talking about a city councilor for several years who made damn near 100,000. He came from corporate before that. He knows Duval Patrick, blah, 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 blah. You ran for mayor, blah, 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 blah. Weren't you opening a marijuana joint up in Mattapan Square? What happened to that? So you couldn't open the one that used to be in the little check cash and little laundromat because that was a little small one. You couldn't pull that off, but now you're going to pull off a 5-story joint in Faneuil Hall. And I just need you suckers, you people's money to make it happen. $100 to 180 in 5 years. I was like, I know people, when I first saw it, because I read the terms. I was like, I know people ain't this stupid. No, boy, was I wrong. He raised that money in a couple of weeks. Because these dumb suckers think that you're going to put in $100 and get 180 back in 5 years. Whoo! Man, I ain't never seen nothing like that. But all right, so I'm sorry, back to the subject. I just did that as a figure 1A example while we were talking about this whole economic thing. Because once again, you have people in this city that's like, hey, I'll talk to you about economics. I ain't gonna mention no names, but I had this sister who's like telling me about her businesses and, da-da-da-da. And it was like, how to get to a millionaire and blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, she on the bus. Don't even own a vehicle. I'm like, trying to be respectful. But it's like, lady, you have no idea. I'll reach into my pocket and pull a knot out and hit you in the head with a knot. You got a knot in your pocket? Like, I don't like people, I had an old man who was giving me relationship advice. This dude ain't had a woman in 40 years. Okay? These folks is cooked up. I don't want relationship advice from somebody who ain't got and can't keep a woman. I don't want financial advice from somebody who's clearly broke. You know? Jay-Z wants to give me some, I'm all ears. You know what I mean? Somebody who actually knows economics, like, let me see, like, Claude Anderson, even though, too, he ain't rich like that. You see what I'm saying? But I can listen to some sensible information. But everybody around here is a guru. Right? On everything. That's the problem. Well, one of the problems with Boston. All right? So now you got people that want to teach young people or do a commission on the state of black men and boys. And these folks, to me, when did you become interested in that? Because when we were doing all these conferences before, directly relating to these issues, these folks was nowhere to be found. And I'll give you a great example. Once again, Ron Bell. I'm sure wouldn't matter if he minded anyway. I'm not saying I'm bad. Talking. Most people know Ron Bell for Dunk the Vote. So if you said, has Ron Bell been involved in voter activities? I think most people would say yes. The other thing he's known for is playing basketball. Has Ron Bell been involved in basketball over the years? I think people would say yes. Has Ron Bell been involved in things that deal with the state of black men and boys for the past however long? I would think no. Outside of those two examples that I get, as it pertains to voting, I'm sure he registered a bunch of young men to vote and grown men. Also helped a bunch of young men and grown men with basketball. Yes. But all of the other overarching issues? No. In all my years of doing stuff? No. I don't remember him being there like that. And I'm talking about when he worked with the governor all the time. I don't remember that part. Not for nothing, too. Y'all know me. It's real easy. Look, anything involving police, y'all see me there. Boop. Criminal justice. You see me there. Boop. Things on violence or dealing with black men or black issues in general. Boop. You see me there. There's no, I got pictures. I have video. People know me. They were there. I remember talking to you that day. I remember fighting you that day. Whatever it is, there's a memory. All I'm saying is over the years, it's no shame in the game. This was not their issues. Look, when I was running for office, somebody critiqued me and was like, you never been at none of the educational meetings. You is 150% right. You know why? Because education ain't my issue. Now, if I'm running for office, and if I win that seat, I'm going to have to brush up on educational issues and find me somebody who does know education and hire me somebody who can address the issues within education. Yes, but me, myself, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert on education, which is why y'all don't see me at those meetings. You see what I'm saying? But police, I'm going to be front and center. Criminal justice, front and center. These are things I know about, lecture about, can teach about, studied, researched. These are the types of things I know about. Okay? Also health. I don't know much about health except, keeping your own health and, that type of thing. But I'm not a doctor. So you ain't going to see me at the COVID convention, talking like I'm a virologist. You see what I'm saying? Let them doctors, they went to school big time, so I know a little bit about health. Shoot, they be telling me my blood pressure. I'd be like, what's that mean? I don't even really know. 120/60. I don't know. Everybody can't be an expert in everything. All right. So now the last one, reparations. So these are the major issues right now. Police reform, black men and boys, and reparations. These are three critical issues dealing with our people that I fear are now falling into the hands to be led, discussed, debated, policy developed by people who really have never been knee deep in those issues or are not really super duper knowledgeable in those issues. So now here we come with reparations. Now the only one in here that I can say, really got some skin in that game is Jemadari. Jemadari Kamara, for those that don't know, he knows what he's talking about. All right? He's not a BS artist. Tony Vandermeer is a BS artist, and is knowledgeable, but I do not trust his character, morals, nor his intent. His motivations is something else. So that, that's on y'all. You know, hopefully you have your own relationship, develop your own relationship. But I'm speaking from me and my own experience and what I know. Not a man of the moral character and fiber that I uphold for black men. You know what I mean? And in fact, we had a real bad situation that could have really went left. And in fact, I don't know how to say that. I'm glad the situation got diffused. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff y'all don't know. So individual people, who might be knowledgeable, like I'm not saying he's a dummy. He's not a dummy. Or like there's genius. Like Batman's a genius, right? Batman's a genius. But the Joker's a genius too. He's just an evil genius. You see what I'm saying? So we have to watch for that in our community. Because everybody's not a dummy. Some of these people are smart, just that their motivations and moral and their character stuff ain't all the way aligned. And, all I can tell you is things like I wouldn't want, these are not people that I would want, a child of mine around, or say, you can model yourself after that person. Like that, that's a good example to look at. I couldn't say that. All right, so in any event, reparations. So Jemadari Kamara knows what he's talking about. He's been involved for a long time. Tony Vandermeer has been involved with the reparations movement for a long time as well. At least knows what he's talking about. A lot of these other people, however, is problematic. And once again, it's for me, I hate when something that, you've been on all this time, but then now all of a sudden somebody else finds it. Like for me, it's what happened when the Black Panther movie came out. I've known about Black Panther since, ever. And nobody was checking for him. And, then the movie come, everybody now is, Wakanda, and they're dressing up and all that. And it really pissed me off and really actually ruined the movie for me. Because now it was like, wow. Y'all just, I gave the example before on the radio about like church at Easter. There's that lady who goes to church every week faithfully. And now here come all these, wannabes who only come once a year on Easter or whatever. And now they done jam the church up so much that one faithful lady can't even get her usual seat. Because all these fakers and posers is up in there. See, and so that's what happens a lot of times when, beforehand when we was dealing with police, dying at the people dying at the hands of police, man, we couldn't get 5 or 6 people. Now people, getting hundreds of people together and all this, and Black Lives Matter, rah, rah, shish, boom, bah, even though they be shouting for people from out of state, and most of them folks, even in those leaderships, most of them folks cannot even name folks who have been killed here in Boston, because they've never studied it. They only came to it when it became cool and sexy. Because, see, they don't really care about justice. They care about being cool and sexy. See? So that's what it is. All right? So right now, reparations is getting some traction. And now all of a sudden, people who ain't never been thinking about reparations before is now thinking about reparations. And a lot of this stuff really, really does bother me. It makes me sick. But what are you going to do? All right, so I had a conversation with one of the people involved and just mentioned some names of some individuals and some organizations and some books. And they had no idea. And that's the doggone problem. See, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. See, because if you're active on a reparations movement and you've never heard of NCOBRA, that's a problem. That's a problem. Because NCOBRA is the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, and they're one of the oldest organizations dealing with it. And if you don't know Dr. Conrad Worrill, who passed away recently, and I'm so sad about that too. So many of my mentors and elders has been, and it's crazy because it's like, I was about to call him just about this, and then come to find out he done passed. So Dr. Conrad Worrill, he ran that for a long time, in Cobra. Also too, there was a Millions for Reparations March. This is in the beginning of when I began with the New Black Panther Party. And we went down, New Black Panther Party from across the country went down, but Boston chapter went down to D.C. And we ended up serving as security that day. Shout out to people like Michael Barnes, VCR, if VCR is still here, Sister Binala, all these folks, like, you know, and we were on deck all day that day, standing up for 8 and 10 hours at a time. Unity of Law. A lot of people went down there with us. And then also, too, we also had a bus from the community and whatnot. And this is actually where I met Ange, if y'all know Ange, who's the homie. But actually, she came, and that's how we met. Now, look, in this chat right here, I'm putting this booklet. We made a pamphlet, myself and VCR. If y'all remember them little Bible tracts, like you would see on the bus or the bus stations or whatever, blah, 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 blah. So long story short, I took the whole idea of the Bible tracts and we made this for reparations. Did that years ago. Distributed, I don't know, thousands of these things. And then, of course, now I put it on Amazon Kindle as a comic book. Millions. I'm just looking for stuff right quick. Hold on, y'all. Bam. Gotta love it. You gotta love it. The internets. The interwebs. All right? And just once again, so y'all know, if I'm lying, I'm flying. I really try to do this because, like, this is important. So I'm going to put this link here, too. If y'all need to know about reparations, C-SPAN. This whole thing, this is an edited video because it used to be longer than that. But this is 5.5 hours, okay, of video. You're going to see people you know in there. You're going to see VCR. You're going to see Michael Barnes. You're going to see me in there. All right? And this is a who's who of everybody involved in the reparations movement. And if you don't know these people, you really, you know. And when I say no, I mean, like, don't even get me started. But these are people who I could call on the phone. These are people, if they come to Boston, they could stay at my house. These are people that if I go to New York or New Jersey or D.C. or Maryland, I could stay in their house. This is a movement, and people know each other. And to me, if you cared, like, okay, now I'm looking back, and it's crazy now, time is flying. This is 2002, August of 2002, 20 years ago now. 20 years ago. Man, time keep on slipping. But this is 20 years ago, so my thing is, all these folks now dealing with reparations and whatnot, like, did you know about it 20 years ago? Like, once again, no shame in the game. If you just found out about reparations a year ago, whatever, look, it's like Christians. I want you to come to Jesus. So if you just came to Jesus yesterday, congratulations, glad to meet you, welcome. Great. I get it. But my point is, I don't know where the leapfrog action happens, that some of these folks who've never been involved or not involved to a substantial degree are now running the movement. And in the case of some of these folks, with their personalities and their individual little things, I believe it's because that they believe that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I don't mean like us getting reparations, like getting a check like that. No, I'm talking about that they believe that they can now be the director of Boston reparations and that somehow they're going to get some nonprofit money. You know how these folks do. Okay? It'll be yet another issue that they can then pit themselves at the forefront of to find a way to get some money. Even if it's just off of damn t-shirts, printing t-shirts. Okay? But these folks, in my opinion, based on my experience, and they've never really been concerned with reparations, because the rooms I've been in with the serious folks from across the country that have been talking about reparations, they wasn't on them conference calls. They weren't at those meetings. We got a video right here. Let's see if any of them pop up in this 5.5 hours of video when the entire country said, this is our time for reparations. Millions for reparations march. As you know, everybody was doing millions march after that. Because it was, Million Man March, then it was the millions more, then the women came out, million moms, it was, million, right? So millions for reparations. There were buses that went from Boston down to DC. Were these folks on those buses, or did they just come to Jesus? Once again, I'm not mad. I just know how long I've been involved in the reparations movement and how serious it is. And how some of my elders, some of whom are locked up right now as political prisoners, they put their life and their behinds on the line for the movement. I take this deathly serious and will knock somebody's block off too. So this is, people are playing with real serious stuff. If you don't know about the Republic of New Africa, you shouldn't be talking about reparations, right? There are folks who already, scienced this out, already did the work, the study, and the research. The problem is these folks who lead in it now literally talking about recreating the wheel because you never knew that nobody invented the wheel. And you so fascinated with yourself, you thought, I just came up with the wheel. Yeah. Meanwhile, you don't know about Bridgestone and Firestone and Goodyear. You're just amazed at how you made a wheel out of a rock. Yeah, your wheel's all right. Yeah, you can roll some things with that. But there's a whole nother set over here. High-tech stuff that folks been studying and testing and sciencing out for decades. So that's it. And here in Boston, we are poised like no other place. Because I'm telling you, this wouldn't fly in New York. You go try to start a reparations movement in New York. The old reparations movement will clean your clock. Because you're not just going to come in with no bogus snake oil and leapfrog over what has been done for decades. These folks are not children of Marcus Garvey and all. I mean, not for nothing. Y'all see your boy. This is the first year that the red, black, and green flag raised up. All these people talking all this black. You think they even be there for the RBG flag raising? No. Once again, I got the videos. You think the biggest crowd we ever had one year was maybe like 30 folks. Maybe 40. Usually it's 10. All right? And once again, not for nothing. And your boy don't do a big deal about advertising it or whatever because, as I said before, because it's not a conference. It's not a convention. It's not a black tie gala. It's not a fundraiser. We're not, everyone come dressed in. We're not doing all that. Red, black, and green. We do it for Black History Month, February. We do it for Malcolm X Day, his birthday, May 19th, right? We do it for Juneteenth, right? June 19th, right? We do it for Black August and the birth of Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey born on August 17th, Black August, obviously, for the whole month of August, which is a commemoration of freedom fights, movements, and struggles all across the world and political prisoners as well. So we do it for Black August, right? The only one I don't do it for is Kwanzaa. If y'all know me, I don't celebrate Kwanzaa. I support the principles, but I do not celebrate Kwanzaa. And I do not mess with the man Maulana Karenga, even though he's a brilliant man. What did we already discuss? Genius and then evil genius? He's an evil genius. And if y'all don't know, that's the father of Kwanzaa. He had the formal organization, United Slaves. If any of y'all saw the movie, The Panther, where they had the black dude who was dressed in the African garb, who had all the women and was in the house, played by Mark Curry. That's supposed to be Maulana Karenga. What y'all may not know is Maulana Karenga used to be vicious with his followers who disobeyed him or he thought was guilty of something or whatever. And he used to do things like put out cigarettes on black women's breasts. So yeah, I ain't into that. I ain't into that at all. I don't rock with that dude. He's a scumbag. All right. Brilliant scumbag, but scumbag. Wrote one of the seminal books on Black studies, you know, I mean, he was a hard figure in the Black studies movement, bringing actual Black studies to college campuses and whatnot. And once again, the father of Kwanzaa. Very significant accomplishments. Very brilliant man, but very twisted and dark and demented man as well. All right. So in any event, so that's it. We done covered the men and boys thing. We done covered the police reform stuff. Now we done covered the reparations thing. And once again, you know, if you don't know these things, literally, you shouldn't be you just shouldn't be on this. Hold on. Let me see here. I'm gonna put a couple more links up in here before I dip. Okay. Just a couple more links. Stuff for yourself, or you might want to share, you know, with other people, particularly young men or men in your life. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Boom. All right, and throw this in here too. Okay. So now these of how come that other link didn't go through? Okay, there we go. All right, so yeah, I just want y'all to have this information. So, you know, as I'm talking and, you know, the references, I'm going to try to be better about that in the future, you know, and putting the stuff in there, because I really, you know, in 2022, I'm really trying to make this stuff more, you know, educational, you know, informational, and stuff that you could use, you know, and share with others, you know. I know a lot of things, and these things is like, you know, what's the fun of like just knowing these things and being like an information hoarder in my brain? I want everybody to know these type of things too, and I also want to know what you know, because you know some stuff that I don't know. So, you know, I'm always into like folks who got different, you know, book recommendations or documentaries or whatever. You know, I'm all for learning, but obviously I want to learn about some serious, you know, some good stuff. I don't, you know, don't give me your reality TV recommendations. You know, and God knows I watch reality TV too. I watch a lot of ratchet television and all that too. But as you see, when I get on here, I don't choose. We're not going to have a discussion about, you know, Real Housewives of Atlanta. We're going to talk about something substantive and real, something that has an impact on our lives, our community, or our children. All right. So this is the type of stuff that folks need to know. And if the folks who are in leadership position don't already know this, they should really do a self-evaluation of like, why are you in leadership position? Okay. All right. I'll give you this last example. My mother over the years, who is, you know, super duper Christian, has tried to, you know, get me to listen to certain people or meet certain people or whatever. And some of these people I have met. And Mr. Sumner, you be able to relate to this. So, well, just put it like this. There are spiritual leaders out there, whether it's a preacher, pastor, minister, whatever they call themselves. And I know for a fact that I know more Bible than they do. Or I know more about the man that they call Jesus Christ than they do. Well, look, I just started there. The man that they call Jesus Christ. A lot of these preachers don't even know Jesus' real name. Yeshua ben Yosef, right? Yeshua, you know, however you want to say it. And a lot of this, folks, you know, the preachers be like, read your Bible. Folks don't, you know, they don't know their Bible. They don't know the Hebrew, the Greek, the Aramaic. They don't know this. They don't, you know, when I was in jail and I read the Bible, you know, I read the Bible cover to cover. like the table of contents, all that stuff in the beginning where it was published, the maps, the whole thing. And in the back, the index. And depending on what Bible you have, it might have a little small concordance in there, right? So my point is that I have studied to show thyself approved unto God. And not just studied the word of God, but studied other things. My mother, once again, a lot of Christians believe it. Oh, it's only about God. And well, Luke was a doctor, right? Luke was a doctor. Luke didn't just go around and, lay hands on people because faith. He was actually a doctor. He had skills. He went to school for it. There were techniques. There were herbs and medicines and, blah, 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 blah. So God is not anti-science. God is, in fact, the chief scientist. You understand what I'm saying? You didn't make all the stars and the things and the constellations align. You didn't make the butterfly get nectar from the flower and then the flower get it. You didn't do that. We just are observing it and discovering it. But all that was already in place. So God is not some God of chaos or God of like, oh, well, if it works out, it works out. No, God is a God of order and science and precision, right? Because that's how, look, this planet, a couple thousand miles this way or a couple thousand miles that way, we either be freezing or hot as hell right now. You understand what I'm saying? So there's all of this stuff is too precise and down to too much of a fine detail for us to then, as people who believe in God, say, oh, God doesn't care about that type of stuff. Yeah, God is a God of order. This is not random. But yet a lot of Christians seem that they just want to go into this random, like, almost like you pulling a slot machine of life. No. So for me, a lot of the people, particularly the people you might see on radio or television, on a national level, and then locally, folks who are living their lives. I'll give you one example. There was a preacher that my mother really, really wanted me to meet. Guy around my age, and she's like, yo, you guys are so alike, and you guys just, I'm like, Ma, no, we're not alike at all. She's like, well, what do you mean? First of all, because he goes to church. So clearly we're not alike, because I don't go to church. Oh, Jamal, but you gotta go to church. Why? Jesus went to church? Now, here's a man, Jesus, who was a carpenter, and at times had 5,000 people following him around. Surely he could say, hey, yo, cut that tree down. Hey, yo, you pass me that plank. Hey, yo, give me it. If it was about building churches, here's a carpenter, right, who had several thousand people following him around, would do whatever he wanted to do, never built a church. Not even a little small one. Not even a little shack. So clearly that's not the mission. It became the mission of the people after. You know how people do. Like, look. Slavery was in the name of God. They do all this stuff in God's name. God ain't got nothing to do with that. You did that because you wanted to. Okay? God never told the Pope that you got to wear bling like Jay-Z. God never said, oh, you got to keep gold in the bottom of the Vatican. You got that gold because you like it. God never said, put on these little Louis Vuitton slippers. You did that. Okay? Put that on God. God got nothing to do with that. How many wars, death, destruction, in the name of God. Now, funny thing once again with my mother having, wanting me to meet this guy. And so she's trying to get me to go to church with him on Sunday. And finally I just said, like, Mom, I'm not going to church on Sunday. Well, why can't you just come on? Mom, I'm feeding people. That was when we were doing the Feed the Hood thing, and I used to be feeding people on Sunday. I'm like, Mom, I'm loading my truck up right now and deliver. Well, not my truck at that time. It was my buddy JD. Shout out to Unc, right? I'm loading the truck up right now, going to feed people. Now, it was funny because my joke with her was like, Mom, why don't you and him come with me? Why don't the church, y'all come with me? Oh, no, I can't. I got to go to church. Well, Ma, never let church get in the way of doing God's work. So to her, going to church, sitting in church, was more important than what I was doing, which was going to feed random people that I don't even know. And years later, my mother would say stuff like, I don't know, Jamal, I just don't see God in you. With a mink coat on and blonde hair. You You see, so it's tough. And my mother is obviously a great woman by all accounts. A lot of people love her. She's helped a lot of people to Jesus and blah, 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 blah. But we have a different vision of, her God likes her in a mink coat. My God would be cracking on me like a homeboy. Oh, you got a mink coat? Really? Who you think you are? Why you got a mink coat? My God don't play that. So clearly we get different messages from different gods or whatever. But, my point is, right? Different people have different levels of knowledge. And so for a majority of the Christian community, it's more important to be inside the church that Jesus never created or never told you to create, right? Than actually going to do the works of what he actually did say go do. So forget what he said do, but in the name of him, we're going to do the things that he said don't do or never said did, and that's what we're going to do. But the other stuff that he did say do, explicitly, we ignore that. I'll give you one more point. This is hilarious. Me and my mother have this argument all the time. So when you pray, a lot of Christians at the end of the prayer, they be like, in Jesus' name we pray, right? Y'all know you're wrong, right? If you pray, in Jesus' name you pray, you know you're wrong. Now, once again, don't listen to me. What do I know? What do I know? Here's what I know from reading the Bible. When they were in that garden, the Garden of Gethsemane, right? The disciples was like, Lord, Jesus, I'll make it convenient for you English-speaking folks, Jesus, even though there's no J's in the Hebrew or Aramaic language. And Jesus is a derivative of the Greek Iesous. But whatever. So, Lord, teacher, master, Yeshua. We so stupid. We don't even know how to pray. Will you teach us how to pray? And he says, why, sure, fellas, I will. I'll teach you how to pray. And then he stands up and he says, in my name, I'd like to pray to me today. No. Jesus, the example, Christians say to be Christian is to be Christ-like. That's the number one model. That's who you want to be like. They said his disciples, his homeboys, with him every day. Lord, we don't know how to pray. We're stupid. Teach us how to pray. And he says, our Father who art in heaven. So Jesus prays to God the Father. But you, because you know better than Jesus, you pray to Jesus. I got you. You'll never get me to do it. It's never going to happen. Y'all say you follow the man. A question was asked directly to the man. The man responded how to pray, started it with our Father in heaven, ended it with hallowed be my name. No, hallowed be thy name. Okay? True religion, caring for widows and orphans. No. True religion is a gene company. Don't you know nothing? So, I can't deal with those type of contradictions. I'll give you one more since we're doing, spiritual Bible stuff now. Most Christians agree the first people on the planet was Adam and Eve. Wonderful. God created Adam and Eve, first people on the planet. Except if you go back and read the doggone book, it don't even say that. Adam and Eve was later, after other humanoids had already been created. But y'all gotta go read it, and read it in order. Read it in order. And then you'll clearly see Adam and Eve is separate and different than humanoids that were created before. And henceforth, there were already humanoids on the planet when, quote, if you take this as, actual factual scientific truth, which I don't. I'm just telling you how it goes in the Bible. So, Adam and Eve, there were people already on the planet when Adam and Eve was here. Okay? Proven by the fact how Adam and Eve, they have 2 kids. One kid, kills the other. They had wives. Where did the wives come from? Oh, that was their sisters. Okay, fine. Cain kills his brother. God puts a mark on Cain's forehead so that nobody else will mess with him. Right? Meaning not buy, not trade with him, not mess with him. So why do you need a mark on your forehead to go out amongst the planet if there's nobody else on the planet? You see what I'm saying? So it's just dumb, juvenile, Sesame Street Christian stuff that folks ain't even They don't even read the book. You be thumping the doggone book all the time. You should open it up and read it. And reading is fundamental. Remember when we were kids? Reading was not just about speed, because you could speed read something real fast, and then the teacher asked you, who were the main characters, and what was the antagonist, and you don't remember nothing, because you really weren't getting comprehension. Okay? So, folks out there with all that, look, we done covered a couple of little black community fallacies, and now we done got into some spiritual, religious stuff and whatnot. At the end of the day, we got to get better. We got to do better. All right? And all I'm saying is, I know I talk a lot. I talk a lot about things when I know a lot. If I don't know nothing, you will not hear me say nothing. Okay? So when I'm talking, it's about something that I know about, and I have something to offer. Other than that, my lips are sealed. Okay? I don't mind if people know me as a talker. That's fine. What I don't engage in is idle chatter. We talking about something. All right? So that's it, y'all. I just want to get in on that, but please, y'all, keep monitoring these things and watch what I said and spread this message. And if you know some of these people involved in some of these things, please encourage them to get informed on these things. Please encourage them to get in contact with me. You know, if they ain't mad or whatever, because sometimes these things I be saying, people taking it the wrong way. It's too late in the day, and we have too much at stake for me to be, mealy mouth with the issues and tiptoeing around the tulips and all that. We ain't got time for that stuff. We got no time for that. It's too critical, too serious. People's lives and quality of life is at stake. Our community, the future of our community is at stake. And I'm not playing while people, are dealing with issues, and they are ill-informed or uninformed or misinformed, or they got the fix in because they really not in it for the right reasons. They doing it for self-aggrandizement, right? Self-promotion, to look like the man or the woman, whatever. They think that there's some financial gain in it or whatever. I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. This is community consumer reports. You know what I mean? I don't want my people getting played, conned, led astray, run amok, bamboozled, all that stuff. All right? So we got to keep it funky. All right? So once again, watch this stuff around police reform, the stuff around the Civilian Review Board, the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel, and around this commission now to choose the next police commissioner. Let's not get played. The stuff around the commission for black men and boys, please watch that. Let's not get played. Frank Farrell, if anybody knows him, I'd like to talk. I don't even know this dude. I don't even think I've ever encountered him in life. But I definitely would like to talk to him, because once again, if he's the dude who is now in charge of it, I don't know these dudes' track records and resumes. But oftentimes, if I don't know you, says more than if I do know you. So if I don't know you, it's like, damn, really, where you been? All right, but in any event, the Black Men and Boys Commission, and then this last thing is reparations. So we really have to be vigilant and watch these things, because, if not, we could be setting ourselves very far back, because particularly stuff like reparations, if this is not done right, it ain't going to get done again. Some of these things you only going to get one swipe at the apple. So we got to figure it out. We got to do better. All right? All right, y'all. Oh, and another reason it's dangerous is because the white people and the powers that be, if any of this fails, they'll be like, oh, see? And then that's reason for them to, never try any of these ideas again, when in fact it might not have been that, like, the idea might have had merit, but it was in fact the people who were carrying it out that screwed up or were incompetent or not knowledgeable, and that has often jacked up many a thing here in Boston. So we really have to do better. We have to get it right, because this ain't just about us. This is, there's more hanging in the balance here. We playing with little kids' lives. You know what I mean? All right, y'all. Let me see if I remember my greeting. It's my farewell. It's been so long. But let's say, yup. Have a great day. Go be great today. Go do something great today. Tell somebody you love them. Better yet, show somebody some love. Show some love to a youth or an elder. And as always, push past the pain to the power. And as always, choose righteousness over ratchetness. And as always, don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. All right, y'all. Peace.